Good morning. Hello. For those of you joining us online through this recording, we just had this phenomenal music performed this morning. So welcome and thank you so much to Bomya for being here today with us. That was really lovely. Okay, so welcome to North Chapel on this Sunday, May 4th, 2025. My name is Hope Yeager. I'm the service coordinator for worship today. Our minister, Reverend Leon Dunkley, is right here up front, although he won't be offering the reflection today. So nice to see you, Leon. However, a friend of mine from 45 years ago, Lyn Swett Miller, is here today to offer a reflection on imagination and compost. She is a really delightful, smart, warm, articulate, insightful artist and human being, and so I'm excited to have her here as well. If you are visiting today, we invite you to sign our guest book at the back of the sanctuary, and we always offer a moment at the start of our service if there are people here visiting for the first time who want to stand up and say who they are. This is the moment in our service for you to do that if you feel so moved, but it's not required. Glass of water, there you go, awesome. Okay, so children will be going with Tatum, yes. And just a few reminders to turn off or silence your cell phones and pagers. After the service today, there's coffee hour downstairs in our social hall. There's stairs right behind me to get there. There are also stairs through that door. Lynn brought some examples of her photography, and they're sitting in the social hall for you to see during coffee hour. There are many other announcements in the order of service and on the church website about all that's happening here at North Chapel, and I urge you to take a look at those at some point. I know Kathy Estemborski is listed in the order of service as having provided our altar decoration, but actually it worked out that John Atwood would bring something today, so thank you, John, for the gorgeous daffodils. Very lovely. Any other announcements out there? Okay, yes, you got one.
I just wanted to say, welcome to the musicians. I hope you'll hear more about them later, but there will be a workshop that I hopefully, Vic, will you share a little bit about the workshop when you make your announcement? You can do it when we planned. But I just wanted to say hi and welcome from the other walkers. I don't know if you know, but I just completed an 83-mile walk through the state of Maine for peace and justice. And they're sending their love to you. And I brought you with me to them. So it's I'll tell you more about that as things go on. So it's good to see all of you.
Our worship theme for the month of May is imagination. And here we are on May the 4th, Star Wars Day, as in May the 4th be with you. What a great day to explore imagination. So I've been looking around for some suitable opening words that would bring together our theme of imagination and the exuberant spirit of spring that's bursting out all over our landscape. But my usual poetic sources were not proving fruitful in filling this task. And then on May Day, I received in my email inbox a post from today's guest, Lyn Miller, and I asked her, could I read what you wrote for opening words? And she said, I'd be honored. So the following words are by Lyn Swett Miller. I hope that you can conjure in your imagination the flowers and plants and other images that she mentions here. And then after these words, we'll have a time of meditation. This is titled, Invigorated by Ephemerals, a May Day Call to Action by the Smallest of Flowers. A trout lily raises its voice, responding to the trillium nearby. while a trillium watches the sun hit a bloodroot's leaf. These smallest of ephemerals along a path near my new home call to mind a similar symphony in our old garden, just on the other side of the Connecticut River. Communities of plants, offerings to those willing to notice. This week, as I stitched these delicate, persistent, and reliable harbingers of spring onto my wedding dress, I imagined my ancestors looking at these same blooms and feeling a similar joy and inspiration. Awakened by the sun and flowing river and the magic of stitches revealing themselves on fabric, I am called to action, to let the spirits of my ancestors come to life through me, antidotes to negative energies that also flow, but in different spaces and on very different frequencies than the one I'm on. As the bloodroot, trillium, and trout lily fade, the daffodils will appear in abundance, a call and response that invite barefooted walks and a willingness to feel joy, even when the powers that be want to diminish our spirits. I, for one, will not be daunted. Wherever you may be on this May Day, let the spirits of your ancestors propel you forward and the beauty of this moment inspire you, because we are each part of a community of beings in a collective call and response, seeking the light together.
Okay, well, wow. I said I was into Compost. I'm imagining all the elements in the Compost dancing to that music. If I were an animator, I would create a video of that, but I'm not. And I really appreciate all that your group represents, because for me, the Compost is all about the blending and mixing of things, as I will talk, and then the beauty that comes when we mix and mingle. So, thank you. My whole body is moving, and I have to settle. It's just gorgeous. It is an honor to be here, and thank you, Hope, for inviting me. We truly have known each other for 45 years. We met in 9th grade, and we would walk to school together every day that first fall, and kept each other grounded. So thank you. It's crazy. Anyway, here we are. My name is Lyn Swett Miller. I'm a photographer, essayist, wife, mother, sister, and public speaker who happens to be passionate about compost. When I look at all of you this morning, I actually see a colorful and textured, nutrient-rich compost pile. You are a glorious mix of colorful, nitrogen-rich vegetable and fruit scraps, and the more muted carbon-rich dried leaves, wood chips, sawdust, and toilet paper rolls. A healthy compost pile necessitates the all of it, just as a healthy community necessitates the all of us. When I was here last week, I so appreciated Chris Wood's reflections on discovering elderhood and the power of an ash tree, what he called his emergence tree, to offer solace in turbulent times. Compost is my emergent tree. My relationship with compost indeed emerged slowly over time, but there are 3 aha moments that changed my life, and I'd like to share them with you. But first, some background. Back in the 2000s, when Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth emerged, I asked the question, what would it take to live within the planet's means? This was, I had 2 young children, my husband and I had just moved here, we had a house, we had all this stuff, but I wondered, what if we ... So as a founding member of the Sustainable Hanover Committee, our family was all in. By 2010, we had fully weatherized and solarized and were in the process of fully gardenizing. The compost system was just one of the many actions checked off of the Save the Planet to-do list. Over time, though, it was the compost pile that absorbed my grief after the deaths of my grandmother and niece. It was the compost pile that absorbed my anxiety over the climate crisis. It was the compost pile that also created beauty in my garden year after year. And when the media or my own busy mind made me feel unimportant in a complex and changing world, I looked to the compost pile for guidance, appreciating not just the ritual of dumping the bucket each week, but the seasonal turning of the pile where, with the worms, who I'm sure would dance to your music, and just melted food scraps experienced transformation and renewal year after year. And as a lifelong casual photographer, documenting my compost was my way of celebrating all that we were doing. So my aha moment, number 1, will not come as a surprise, because it was on a snow day in January 2015 that compost changed everything. My daughter and I had just discovered pomegranates and had eaten the whole batch as we watched the snow fly. When I brought the skins and dumped them out onto the ice-covered compost pile, the red skins created a 4-leaf clover against the white snow. It was magic. It was so beautiful. I had not seen anything like that before in my compost pile. So I went inside and grabbed my camera, kind of dancing, my children looking at me, and I came out, and I created this image. This was my first compost composition. When I went inside after creating this image, my children said to me, "Mom, you've got to stop just taking photographs. You have to be a photographer." They were 13 and 14. "You could sell those. Your photographs are cool. You could go online. Like, Mom, go for it." From the mouths of babes. So my aha moment number 1 was lean into the wonder and beauty. You never know what might happen. But it's one thing to say be a photographer. It's another thing to actually do it. But by 2018, 4 years later, I had begun to figure out what it takes. It takes time to create thousands of images and patience to create a portfolio of work that communicates the spirit of a thing. I'd even started collecting compost from Umplebee's Cafe in Hanover, yes, to be altruistic, but mainly because I was curious what my food and vegetable scraps would look like against the black coffee. The snow was cool, but what about the dark coffee? And we're tea drinkers, so I couldn't create that effect at home. So being a photographer meant that I was leaning into this process, really paying attention to these things like colors, textures, shapes, taking photographs and building this portfolio. And along the way, compost had clearly become my muse, not just for photography, but also a metaphor for just about everything. And after the 2016 election, with a president who did not believe climate change was real, that mix and mingle of diverse materials in the compost pile reminded me every day that it is our diversity and colorful variety that makes our nation and ourselves whole. And in 2018, when the UN latest report on climate gave dire warnings, I was grateful for the compost because that particular report made it very clear we had to keep the earth from rising above 2 degrees above pre-industrial levels. They rapidly revised it to 1.5, but that wouldn't work for my story. I heard that and wondered, how is it that there are so many people out there with multiple degrees, PhDs, philosophers, and other brilliant people, including myself, with a BA from Harvard and an MBA from the University of Virginia, and we still are in this mess? It has to do with something else. There's something else going on. And since I can't change the world and I can't change others, I wondered, what is the world asking of me? And more specifically, what is Compost inviting me to do? Here comes my second aha. And I thought about the 2 diplomas in my attic. There they were gathering dust. My children wouldn't want them. They were clutter. And not just physical clutter. There's something else. And again, I wondered, what if? So I got those 2 framed documents, celebrating them with a photograph out in the garden, and then I deconstructed the frames and composted my 2 degrees. There was no thunder. My ancestors who actually helped found Harvard did not haunt me. In fact, all was still, except for the action in the compost pile, where the worms and other detritus embraced those pieces of paper and transformed them into nutrient-rich soil. How cool is that? And here's the second aha. Whether it's climate or our daily lives, it's not what we do, it's not what we know, it's not the structures that we build that matters. It's who we are, the energy that flows through and from us. Our spirit is what matters. But the question for me at that time was, what does that spirit look like? And what does it feel like to let go of those expectations and assumptions and structures that we've known for so long? What does it mean to lean into the spirit of myself as a photographer in these troubled times? And here's the aha number 3. Through all of this, I was supporting my mother, who had been diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2007. After her stem cell transplant, she and my father moved next door. At about the same time, I had built our composting system. Over the years of treatments, a pacemaker, a hip replacement, and even a broken neck, she and my father contributed to our compost, which was fitting since she was the one who introduced us all to compost back in the 70s. But in 2022, I was in an emergency room with her, and she had to have emergency surgery. They were not sure if she would make it or not, and she said to me, "Lyn, I want a green burial on our land in Sharon, Vermont." She made it through the surgery, but a year later, we buried her on a bed of compost that she and I had created together. A truly full circle moment. And I'm getting the shivers right now. Anyway, as my mother's body was cared for by the mycorrhizae she loved, her spirit thrived. Flowers bloomed on her grave, and she continued to encourage my work, returning as a monarch butterfly at very odd moments when I needed a nudge. So aha number 3 is compost is both physically nourishing for the earth, and it's such a glorious metaphor for the power of Earth's spirit to embrace us and heal us. Your theme for the month of May is imagination, and I've been thinking a lot about your guiding question. What would it be like to allow imagination to run in our inner lives, in our relationships with others, in our institutions, and in our connection to all that is? I love that I built the 3 composter by hand from repurposed cedar beams, but it gets even cooler than that. Over the course of 13 years before we moved here, I processed 13 tons of compost. That's 26,000 pounds, or about the size of a large dump truck. And along the way, I nourished an ever-flourishing biodiverse landscape and became a photographer, using my imagination every day, reframing not just the images I created, but also my entire way of seeing and being in the world. and leaned into the beauty of this collaborative relationship between me and the earth herself, experiencing the powerful reciprocity that Robin Wall Kimmerer so beautifully describes in Braiding Sweetgrass. When we work to heal the earth heals us. What would happen if we let our imaginations flow? Indeed, all of this work came from love, a place of love. I could not do the composting if I did not love my children, my land, and myself and my family. What happens when we let imagination flow? For me, I imagine a great compost pile, like all of us here today. A glorious, colorful mix of this and that, in community, grounded in love. For what matters then is being in community, letting our spirits flow, and by doing so, inspiring our collective imaginations to wonder, what if? Thank you.
In the words of Lyn Swett Miller, let the spirits of your ancestors propel you forward, and the beauty of this moment inspire you, because we are each part of a community of beings in a collective call and response, seeking the light together. So be it. Amen, and may the 4th be with you.